Hang on a minute, this isn't right.
I sure hope you enjoyed your first weekend of March, because I don't think February is going to be here again until next year. I actually had a great end of the month. My mom had a great birthday on Friday with cupcakes made by yours truly, and I visited Duluth, Minnesota to visit some dear friends of mine. But because it's no longer February, it's time for yet another installment in the Car CD Swap series. If you can believe it, we're already on to episode 3 of this particular program. Just as a reminder, the way this works is that I pull 6 CDs out of my car and have a nuanced discussion with all of you about the artists and music on each disc. Towards the end of our time together, I head back into my media cabinet and choose 6 new ones to rotate in. Those get the life force sucked out as I listen to them in the car. It's all very fun and safe. Hopefully this part of the TV channel is fun and safe for you too, and I'd encourage you to explore the albums mentioned here on your own. Before we get too into the weeds, make sure you click on the thumb icon you see in front of you. Write a comment below the video if you recognize some of these records, and have some discourse to share, and of course, be sure to subscribe to this TV channel. We're always discovering something new under the sun. It's time to go visit the Jetta, take a look at what CDs were on deck for February, give them some healthy discussion, and then we'll dutifully select the next 6 that will be my driving around soundtrack for March. It's kind of nice to have this rain every now and again, but I could sure use another vacation right about now. Let's see what's coming up first in the stack. Right out of the gate, we've got Mirrored by Battles. This is Battles' debut album, and I've owned it a very long time, so the digipack is a little worn out. This group was pretty experimental when this came out in 2007, and I remember how much the quirky guitar loops, mathematical drumming, and layers upon layers of otherworldly keyboards left an impression on me. Mirrored not only has pretty eclectic instrumentals, but the vocals are heavily processed most of the time, and give each track a sci-fi feel. A friend of my dad's played this for me, and in high school, I snagged a copy. Where from, I can't exactly remember. Check out that crisp and well-designed digipack, and some real creative photography on the jacket too. A few highlights for me personally are going to be the songs Atlas, Tonto, and Race Out. I bet you can pick up a copy of Mirrored pretty easily, but don't take my word for it, I'm just here to recommend it to you. Coming up next is Made in England by Elton John, his stellar 1995 effort. Kind of hard to read the spine, but don't worry, we'll get more of Elton's face pretty soon. Sir Elton John has had a huge career and a marvelous run. So many incredible records we all enjoy from this guy. One thing I should mention though, is that the 80s kind of sucked for Mr. John, mostly for musical and personal reasons. So the latter part of that decade, as well as the 90s, were an opportunity for him to turn things around. And 1995 was a great opportunity, because Made in England has some of Elton's most emotionally driven material, sonically astounding mixes, lush orchestral production, and surprisingly sparse arrangements, all things considered. I picked this CD up while I was thrifting a couple months ago, and the classic wax pencil price is still on the disc. I'll probably fix that up someday. Love that we get a hunk of cheese inside the jacket. The whole album has plenty of replay value, and I'd recommend every track, but some of the cuts that represent the overall sound pretty well are Believe, Made in England, Cold, and Belfast. You can definitely find this CD out in the wild. When I was a kid, it was the most common thing you'd see in the Goodwill media racks, besides R.E.M's Monster and Madonna's Ray of Light. Okay, awesome. Very glad we got to have Maxinquaye by Tricky in rotation last month. Super creative packaging, what a stunning vibe right off the bat. Some of you watching today's video may be tuned in enough to trip hop and music from Bristol, England to recognize Tricky from the acclaimed group Massive Attack. But for the rest of us here, Tricky is a rapper, producer, and trip hop artist, best known for his moody vocals, surreal and sometimes existential lyricism, and ricochets between genres. Plus, Tricky has also collaborated with Bjork, Grace Jones, and Alanis Morissette. Maxinquaye is not only Tricky's debut solo record from 1995, but it's a mind-blowing study of personal topics and a dreamlike weaving of words and beats. Like I just said, the packaging is stellar. I've always loved the way this album looks. I'm pretty sure I got this at a record store within the last couple of years. You know, it's just one of those things you clock across the aisle and swiftly pick it up, knowing it's going to be purchased that day. Ponderosa, Black Steel, and Suffocated Love are just a few tracks that really shine. And I'd encourage you to snag a copy. It's likely going to be hiding out in record stores and used bookstores. Combing through the stack again, my eyes see Aenima by Tool. Wow, just look at that iridescent front cover as the light moves across it. You know you're in for a treat when the CD has this kind of packaging. Tool is a progressive metal collective from Los Angeles and have been a favorite of mine since I was a lad. Over the years, my taste in general has kind of mellowed out, and greatly expanded in a myriad of ways. But every now and again, I just have a hankering for some powerful riffs, expert drumming, very stunning visual effects, and lyrics that seem to tie red string through multiple heady topics for minutes on end. Sometimes, this is just the kind of thing you need to get yourself through the day. Aenima is Tool's second album, and if you meet any fans of the group, chances are this will be a contender when arguing over which record of theirs is the best. It certainly features the most interludes and segues in between pummeling riffs and song structures, as well as some of their most intense topics lyrically. I could easily recommend the entire thing in one go, but if you decide just to sample this one, some safe bets would be Stinkfist, Eulogy, 46 and 2, and the title track, Aenima. I got this CD at a used bookstore during college, and I'm glad it survived so well. I honestly am unsure how common or uncommon this will be in the wild, but I'd suggest to go looking for it either way. Ladies and gentlemen, The Weeknd. Or more to the point, his album from 2015, Beauty Behind the Madness. I won't say which Weeknd album is my favorite on the air here, but this CD in particular I end up replaying more and more over the years. I think most of you know this guy. He just had an album come out earlier this year that's been a stellar swan song, and I don't think any of us back in 2015 were really ready to accept he'd be closing this chapter in a decade. No matter what, we'll be glad to hear new music from Abel in the future, and in the meantime, all the classic and more recent Weeknd albums are here and now for us to enjoy. And this one, that was in my car for February, is a very easy album to enjoy. At this point in the 2010s, this featured some of the poppiest melodies, more explicit lyrics, fascinating collaborations, and stylistic shifts from Abel we'd come to know and love. I debated with myself whether to have this on LP or CD, but when I found a crisp and unopened CD at the record store for a reasonable price, I caved. Speaking of caves, some of the highlights on this one to check out are Losers featuring Labyrinth, Often, The Hills, Earned It, and Prisoner featuring Lana Del Rey. But you just know me better than that. Go to a big box store, a record store, a bookstore, or your home computer. Buy yourself a CD to play in your car. The sub bass on the record still works, even if you're not streaming it online, like on Apple Music, Tubi, your Nintendo Switch. Okay, the last CD in February's stack is going to be none other than Excitable Boy by Warren Zevon. Remember that trip to Duluth, Minnesota I mentioned at the start of filming today? I was listening to this bad boy for a good chunk of the drive. I even played it twice. If you don't know who Warren Zevon is, go look him up on the computer when you're done watching today. In the meantime, Warren was a multifaceted musician during the 20th century who, despite personal talent and a wide variety of jobs in the industry, didn't really break through until Linda Ronstadt covered a song of his. Zevon is known for his well-crafted songwriting, striking lyrics that can be funny or shocking depending on how you feel, and a lengthy career admired by dozens of alternative and pop acts to this very day. Giving Excitable Boy a listen, no matter what format it's on, it's very easy to see why this album still makes waves. I think you should snag a copy wherever you end up seeing it. There's plenty to go around, and it's super fun to drive to. Evidently, I picked this CD up at the same time I thrifted Made in England. There's that wax pencil on the disc once again. Great photography in the jacket, with the gun on the plate of food. I think everyone should get a chance to see this. You know me, none of these albums would show up here if I didn't believe they were excellent front to back. But if you want a taste of Excitable Boy, start with Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, Werewolves of London, and of course, Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Time for us to visit the media cabinet and see what discs are going in the car for March. Stashing these down here to keep track, there we have it. Still got some space left, but it might be looking grim before too long. We're gonna start things off with Tracy Chapman's self-titled album. It's about time I drove my fast car listening to her biggest single. And I think we'll do Heart-Shaped World by Chris Isaak. Let's get the family tree back together. And also we'll spin When the Pawn, Something Something Else by Fiona Apple. Wow, this is terrific already. Next, I think it's time to set our watches back. We'll do Pacific Ocean Blue by Dennis Wilson. That's where it's at. Hey, I forgot this one was here. I'm definitely going to do Closer by Joy Division, kind of an underdog. And for an overdog, let's go with Moving Pictures by Rush. That's going to whip some folks into shape. You know, something that occurred to me in this episode is that I'll not only hear fresh tunes monthly during my commutes, trips, and various road violations, but I also may get a chance to rate each and every one of these albums someday. This series is really built around driving my car and rotating CDs in and out to enhance the experience of driving. As far as the music is concerned, it might only be fair that by the end of 2025, we'll see which albums that I own are truly the best for automobiles, and which ones may not cut the mustard. We'll just have to see how it goes. goes. Thank you for joining us for yet another CD swap for the car. We'll see you back here once again when April is finally upon us. This is Jack T. Russell, signing off for now. Good night!